today. Both of us are around, like, I'm 1650 and he's 1900. We're going to be going over my first round, or my second round at the Superior Open. So this was a game against an 1880 rated opponent. He's very strong. He's played both of us, actually. So let's begin with the opening. So he began the game with e4. I played e6, d4.
Wait, Rishabh, could you please share a screen also?
Oh, yes, please. Sorry. So here we're going with knight c3. So this was the opening that was played, knight f6. So here actually Krish told me a line with bishop b4. Krish, do you want to explain that line?
Yeah, so here white plays e5, now c5, now a3, bishop takes c3, takes knight e7, and queen g4, which is a move where if you don't know like how you play here, you could lose quite fast as black, but if you know how to play, the position probably ends in an equal position. So yeah, so now a move here, queen c7, and now queen takes g7, and a rook g8, queen takes h7, cd. And now basically the idea is if you take my pawn on d4, I come in with my queen on c3, working the king and the rook, which would be crushing for black.
Right.
So white should find a way to defend against this. One of the ways is knight e2, queen d3, also king d1.
Yeah. So this is actually a very sharp line which you should memorize. If this is like almost a forced draw, but it's a good line which both sides may go for tactical complications. But back to the game went with knight f6, the main line, e5, knight fd7, f4. So this is the main line, but they could also go for knight f3, which may transpose into some other lines. But after f4, a6, preventing any knight b5 ideas, you'll see why that could be important in a little bit. After knight f3, c5, he went for bishop to e3, knight to c6, queen to d2, takes on d4. So here, instead of takes on d4, what would you recommend that I do, Krish?
Well, c takes d4 in this case is actually fine, but another move which came to thought is queen b6.
Yeah.
I would take on d4 probably.
Would you any chance to like see the move b5? Would that have any occurrence to you?
Well, I would see it, but I wouldn't play it.
It does look like it's giving white more weaknesses to target, which is good. So after takes on d4, knight takes.
But here actually, instead of knight takes d4, bishop c5.
Yeah, bishop c5 would have been better. After takes on c6, it's take back. And now in this like structure, black tends to do better because they have like a more solid structure and the open b file. Plus, there's no advancing squares for the white knights, which is very important.
And even if you do move your knight there, I have knight e4.
Yeah. And there's like better prospects for black's pieces. Even if it looks like the bishop is locked in, the bishop will get active. And your goal is to try to trade this bishop for this bishop. And if you can get that, you'll be in a much better position.
Yeah.
So here, after taking on d4, I took back. Bishop takes, bishop c5. So after bishop e2, I trade queen b6. Queen takes b6, knight takes b6. So remember how I said that a6 was important? Now, in this position, if my pawn
after knight takes b6,
if the pawn was on a7, the knight could go to b5, and this would just be crushing for white. Any thoughts, Krish?
Knight c7, knight d6.
Yeah. So that's why a6 is semi-important in these structures. And after bishop c5, we just traded everything. into an endgame. Here I think I was in a little bit, so now I think I'm winning, or in a better position, because this d4 pawn is really isolated, has nobody to help him. And here after taking on f1, I brought my pieces I picked up the pawn, but he found some nice moves to stay in the game. So after rook f1, g4, bishop g2, rook f8. Here he went
Well,
knight.
instead of rook f8, actually, I think knight c4 might have been a better option here.
Yeah, rook f8 I think is an error, which allows the game to turn into equal positions. But here, instead of rook f8, Krish, you mentioned knight c4.
Yeah.
So knight c4 looks very nice coming to e3. I think, what did I like about it? I think I didn't like that the knight could come to d4 is what I didn't like.
Here I would actually play just e5 for black.
But e5, they just take on c6 and play rook f6. So they do get their rook in the game, so maybe not.
Well, actually, I can probably even ignore knight d4 and just continue with my plan of knight takes b2.
Knight takes on b2. It does allow h3. What does that accomplish? I guess it tries. Oh, I think it's trying to go for the e6 pawn. That's actually smart.
Even takes bishop d7.
Bishop d7 doesn't cut it because of rook f6.
Yeah, I guess. That's passive.
Rook f8. So after knight f4, it's kind of impossible to defend this pawn after rook to e1. And here I just offered a draw. So this position is, I mean, you could try to play on, like after takes, that takes. But like the idea is that after takes, you can just go knight c7 and you win this pawn back.
Well,
And it's kind of hard. I mean, yeah, it's probably playable.
After d4, maybe, possibly, yeah. And after bishop c6 and bc6 and knight a6, the idea with knight c4 and then knight e3.
Knight c4, knight e3, maybe. Yeah, but I just go knight b4 and I'm kind of.
Well, after knight a3, knight c2, you have the d pawn, but white also has the a pawn.
Knight a3 doesn't work. It blunders the c6 pawn. He has to like push c5, or he has to defend the pawn. But like the idea is that this is probably just gonna liquidate into a very drawish endgame.
Yeah.
So actually, any lessons the player should take out of this game from the opening or any other stage of the game?
a6 is definitely a really important move because as you see in the French, the d6 square is mainly quite weak. If a knight can get there, that would be crushing for white.
Yeah. So there's some interesting ideas you can play here. b5 is interesting.
b5 if you want to play for a win.
Yeah, b5.
Even c4 could be taken into consideration here.
Yeah, c4 could definitely be taken into consideration. This line is very sharp. It's actually is like one of the most popular lines at the top level. And also what Krish recommended, bishop b4. This is also a way to get into some very tactical territory.
Yeah.
So this is all good. Anyways, thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.